And we're live. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Feedback Frenzy. Welcome to the show. This is where designers are going to be pitching their games to a panel of publishers. This should be helping designers practice giving a quick pitch that publishers that are interested in seeing their game get to kind of get a feel for their game. I will be moderating tonight. My name is Fertessa Elise, and tonight we have a distinguished panel of judges. Right here is Julie Ahern for Greenbrier Games, the VP and COO of Greenbrier Games.
Hi.
And then we have Stephen Buonocore, Mr. Wonderful. He is the founder of Stronghold Games, and you can find him on his new podcast and YouTube channel, The Podfather of Gaming.
Yes, hi.
We have Rob Dougherty and Debbie Moynihan. They run White Wizard Games, maker of Storm Realms, Hero Realms, Sorcerer, and Epic Card Games. Rob is Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer and is also the co-designer of Ascension. Debbie will be our technical producer tonight. And last but not least, we have Carla Kopp. And she is a game designer, developer, and publisher. She runs Weird Giraffe Games and co-owns Galactic Raptor Games. All right. So we're going to get right into it. We have our first designer coming up. He will be presenting Dice Puddings, Gavin Pouliot.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hi, Gavin.
Hey. I'll share my screen, and hopefully this goes without a hitch. I'm being very hopeful. So yeah, I'm a longtime game player. I've been designing games kind of on and off since 2012. This game pitching today is Dice Puddings. It's a dice drafting puzzle game for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, and it plays about 30 to 60 minutes depending on the experience of the players. The premise is that it's basically like the baking Olympics. Think of Chopped or the Great British Baking Show. You know, like one of those competitive baking shows. You're here as a chef to show off your skills at making the best desserts. The overview of the gameplay is that each turn you're going to be selecting a die to help you get closer to finishing off a dessert. When you complete a dessert, there are in-game bonuses that you'll receive, and then also points for the end of the game. When a player finishes their 5th dessert, that triggers the final round. Everyone finishes up, and then we have final scoring. What people have said they like about it so far is they like the multiple layers. Dice can be used in multiple ways. I made a little Lego fridge for a dice tower to kind of bring some of the theme into the game, and people seem to really enjoy that. They like the dessert cards that makes them hungry. I've tested this with both. I know everyone likes dessert, right? I've tested this with both like people who basically exclusively play Magic cards and also people who play Yahtzee once a year to try to get like a very a good spectrum of players, and they get it, they enjoy it, and it's a crowd pleaser. There's a ability to sort of stack up abilities and get a big turn, kind of like an engine building mechanism, and that's a very satisfying feeling when you get that correct. And there's a puzzle element in the way that you place the dice on your tray, and so getting that right, getting the right dice where you want them to be is a nice satisfying feeling when you get that correct. In terms of comparison to other games, I would say similar, like a 2.5, a 2 out of 5, similar to like Patchwork or Sagrada, Century Spice Rover. That's pretty clever. The replayability of the game is part of it in any dice game, is that the dice rolls are all varied. There are 40 unique dessert goal cards. In terms of names, composition, everything, they're all unique, so that's pretty nice. Scores have always been pretty tight. Scores range from like about 20 to 30 points a game. There's no runaway winners. And I would say the base game system is fairly solid. I've been testing this and work on this since March, and so I think there's good bones there to kind of build in and explore. The current component list. I have the game board.
5 seconds left, and just let me know.
All right, so here's the current component list. This is what I have as prototype parts, but I'm open to feedback and changing that as we as publishing gets closer. So that's it. Thank you very much.
So this is not real time, right? This is a turn-based. You're drafting the dice.
Yeah. It's not real time. Each turn you're drafting a die. Yep. And so you can either take the die and put it on your tray and use it as an ingredient for your dessert, or you are selling off the die and getting money, which the money helps you get ingredients that are further away from you as you play the game.
Can you describe the spatial puzzle of it at all, other than it's tricky?
Sure. So every dessert takes 3 dice, and there are specific numbers that you'll need to get. So like some of these will say you need to have 3 dice that are 3 or lower, or you need to have 2 dice that are 5 or higher, and you have to have certain colors along with those. Your dice have to be all in the same row or column to satisfy the needs of that dessert. So you can't just put your dice wherever.
So do you have a 3x3 grid?
Yeah, it's a 3x3 grid on each of the player trays. Yep. And so oftentimes what has happened is someone will pursue a certain dessert, someone else will get it before them, and then they're stuck with a partially made dessert that they've then got to sort of change into something else to get those dice off the tray, because if your whole tray fills up, then it's kind of hard to progress and get points.
I would, like, when you're talking about the game, I would talk about that aspect more.
Okay.
You mentioned about how the dice tower is really fun, and at that point I was like, oh, the game must not be fun if we're talking about the dice tower. Like,
yeah, no, I think it is fun. It's just people. I play with lots of folks who don't usually see a dice tower, so it's just kind of like a fun, makes a satisfying clacking sound, you know.
I will agree. So you focused heavily on the components, and there are a lot of components to it. For which it's a 30 to 60 minute games, and you have a lot of components, which is the time, and the component list means it would be a higher price point with all the stuff that you have. So you'd want a certain amount of time. So focusing on those, yes, but that's more for a publisher than it is for the gameplay experience.
Okay.
And I would also be very wary of, you were talking about, so what Steven said, that it's a turn base, and how much of that time is being taken up just waiting your turn, and how much of it is actually taking turns and making choices. What is the downtime in that 30 to 60 minute time?
We're running up on one last minute.
Why is there a dice tower? I mean, dice tower is not even in your list of. It is game board. Why is the dice tower even? Why is dice tower in the component list?
It doesn't have to be. It's just sort of a fun thing.
Get it out of your component list.
Okay.
It's not. It doesn't make sense. It's a dice tower is a thing that you either have, you don't have, unless the dice tower itself is.
It's a toy.
Is a component in the game, like in Wallenstein, and where it goes in and things happen, like it stays in the tower and something.
Okay,
I saw it in the game.
I saw it more as like the dice tower and wingspan, but yeah.
We're ready to move on.
When it did look like it had cool table presence, but there was in your pitch, I just got distracted by things. So
I would put less wording in your sell sheet. Pare it down. Keep the bullet points.
Does great.
All right. Thank you very much, Gavin.
Thank you.
And for those of you guys just joining us, we're doing the pitching right now, and it will be 3 minutes with the designer pitching their game and 3 minutes of feedback from the publishers. We have our next designer coming up, Darlene, and she's bringing Merchants of Mayhem.
And Ethan.
Ethan.
Hi.
And
hello.
Thanks for having us. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Darlene.
And we're Merchants of Mayhem. Today we're showing our game, Rochambeau Domination. This is a 2 to 8 player card game for ages 8 and up. The game is easy to set up and quick to learn, which makes it perfect for a family game night. A full game can last 5 to 20 minutes, depending on the amount of players. A player wins by conquering other players' territories and obtaining 2 complete countries. There are 44 cards that can easily fit in a small tuck box or even a mint tin.
The premise of the game is that world leaders of Rochambeau have decided to end all wars and meet for a game of rock, paper, scissors to determine the winner of different territories. Through luck and planning, you must conquer the territories of others to become the new Rochambeau world leader.
Each player starts with a full country, which is 4 territory cards of the same color, and also a bonus ability card. During a battle, the attacker chooses a defender's territory to fight for. The attacker must also put up one of their territories as collateral if they lose in battle. Both players play a quick game of Rochambeau to determine who will win. So we're going to do a quick example of a battle. I'll be the attacker, she'll be the defender, and I'll choose a territory card from the defender, and then we'll play Rochambeau. So she's holding a Regolio territory card, so I'm going to pick that as the card I'm going to fight for. And so then we play a game.
Rochambeau.
And she did scissors, I did rock, and so I beat her scissors, obviously, and won the battle. And now I would have her territory card.
If the attacker wins, he gets the defender's territory. If the defender wins, they get the attacker's offered territory. If it is a tie, both players keep their card, and the attacker moves to the player on their left. The attacker should start with the first person on their left and make their way around through everyone. Once they've completed a round, the attacker roll moves to the player on their left. Play continues like this until someone obtains 2 completed countries.
Each country has a capital territory that is tied to a unique bonus ability. If you lose your capital territory during a battle, you also lose the bonus ability. The capital card is the last territory that can be attacked in any country.
The capital bonus cards are very valuable as they give you a one-time use advantage during battle. Bonus abilities vary from making someone skip an attack, or redo a battle, change the offered territories, and prevent the use of a bonus for that turn.
The way to win is just to possess 2 completed countries through conquering other players' territories in games of Rochambeau. And that's our game.
So are players eliminated when they if they lose their capital?
No.
No.
When the attacker roll gets to them, they are essentially rebelling and can.
They're allowed to attack.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're still allowed to attack the other defenders and try to gain territory back.
Do you play with less countries depending on number of players? Is that
Yes.
Correct.
The amount of countries is the same as the amount of players.
okay? So you play with a Regolio and a Navio or something like that,
Right.
only on a 2-player game.
Well,
Okay.
a 2-player game actually has a 2-player variance where we add a third country. So that one's a little bit different than the rest of them.
But essentially, we're playing rock, paper, scissors to win colored cards.
Correct.
Yes, yeah. But they're tied to bonuses that all have different effects, and so there's some that allow you to redo battles and to prevent other bonuses from being used, and a few other uses as well, as like skipping certain attacks and stuff like that.
So the one thing that I actually like the idea of using rock, paper, scissors as a core mechanism in a more advanced game that is a great kid foundation to build on. My bigger concern is because how complex are the other cards, because rock, paper, scissors is simple enough that anybody can play it.
Correct.
So if you're adding that layer, you're still going to want to keep those really simple, because this is very much targeted for you have ages.
The bonus cards can be
I would
taken
want to
out.
try to aim for like 4 or 5 plus, to be honest. And
Well,
Yeah.
you could. If you take away the bonus cards and only play with the country cards, it changes the game a bit, but that's a version that you can play with younger kids because there's no reading
true,
involved.
but I think my goal
Yeah.
would be to get the bonus cards simple enough that you could.
Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, the most complex. We can just reword them to be much simpler in text, to just say redo a battle, or things that would be.
Because so your target demographic for this is, I think, even younger than what you have here.
Okay.
I would
Yeah,
suggest just a big icon on each of those. So if a little picture that conveys, you could tab the word redo and have a little picture, and then
that's a great idea.
Redo a battle. Because basically, if you're going to be playing with 5 and 6 year olds, which I think is good for a rock paper scissors thing. A lot of them aren't going to be able to read, so basically but they can recognize images super well. So I think that would get a long way.
Yeah, I think Julie's comment is spot on. I'm not going to be playing rock, paper, scissors and winning cards in a game. That's not something I'm going to do. And I don't have kids, but I can see, like, if you're going to
15 nieces and nephews, I would play this.
If you go into the kids audience, now that's a whole other story, and maybe that's a thing. So that, I think, is your demographic. Go style of in that.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Unless you made it rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, in which case then I might get in.
That's the expansion.
I'm kidding. Good.
Well then.
So time's up. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
All right, cool. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we are going to have our next designer, Danielle Reynolds. She's going to be bringing Let's Sort It Out, the game of recycling. She is a Chicagoland-based female LGBTQ designer who likes to design uniquely themed games for entry-level and casual players. She moderates for Board Game Broads, hosts the online Chicago Game Design Group, blogs, and does graphic design for her company, DMR Creative Group. Please welcome Danielle.
Wow, I don't even need to introduce myself. Hello. So this is Let's Sort It Out. I'm actually going to tilt my screen down, but in this game, it is a set collection drafting game. So the main focus of it that I find is the most interesting is the conveyor belt mechanism. So this is how you're going to draft your cards. On your turn, you're going to be able to take a card from either the belt here or from face down, and whatever you take, so say I take this card, the belt is going to continually move. So whatever is closest to the end here is actually going to drop off and go to the player clockwise from you. And then you would fill up the rest of the belt. And so the idea is when you are drafting cards, you're not only working to try to figure out what to put into your bins over here, which will be scored 3 separate times, but also what your other players are going to be receiving as well, because there are some cards that are going to give you like only 0 points if you only have 1, or worst case, you're going to get a hazard card. And so with hazard cards, it's actually going to stop you from receiving points for certain bin types. And the bin types, since it is a recycling game, we have our paper, plastic, compost, glass, and trash. So in the game, what you're trying to do is avoid the hazards, but if you do end up getting one, you can remove it using safety gloves. And that way you get additional points. Another added bonus is we have a dump truck that is actually going to be going along its route. And so that just kind of initiates the different ends and starts of rounds. So as long as you have a dump truck on a specific card, either an end scoring condition for that round will take effect, or an ability like you could potentially grab 2 papers this turn. And so really the best parts of this game is the theme, how the drafting mechanism really plays into it, and the diversity of the card types.
All right. To our publishers.
So on the conveyor belt, is it always on every player's turn is one card getting forced onto a player, or if you pick something, can it prevent a player from getting anything at all?
So no, it will always move forward. Through playtesting, I found that that was the best way to do it, because I did at times have gaps left in between, but it confused players. So the belt will always exceed or go quicker. So that way something will always drop off. And you're always aiming to try to pick something up that they don't want, or that's going to hurt them, or not hurt them, but you're not trying to give them additional points.
So I pick a card, and then it fills, and then it pushes, and a player gets the card at the end. Is that right?
Yeah. Take a card, pushes, card falls off, and then refill.
Okay.
And how am I scoring points? By the numbers at the bottom, getting the most of a given type, like glass and plastics and things like that?
Yeah, so they all score a little different. Some are just straight up 1 or 2 points. Some are set collection. So if you have, say if it's the banana peel, you get 0 if it's 1 card, 2 if you have 2, 8 if you have 3, and then it goes to 14 if you have 4. So some of them you're taking a little bit more of a risk with trying to collect additional. You also have the mason jar that is like at the very end of the game, whoever has the most, or the kitty litter, whoever has the least, which I always have fun with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it sounds really cool from a player interaction standpoint. I always love when games like give you like interesting choices, like where you know that the next player in line is going to get something. You just have to, weigh if you're going to hate draft or not, which I think is really cool. I'm not sure that the theme is a super selling point. That was the first thing you said that was the greatest, but that would be the only downside for me is recycling isn't super fun.
But it could be fun. Think of the flavor text.
I think that's it. I think we're starting to get into people who are starting to be more environmentally conscious, and we are starting to get games that have that theme. I don't know. I think it's great, but I also acknowledge that I'm not the. I'd be like, hey, let's play this. So it really does depend. I think finding something like Genius Games might be a good fit type of thing. You would need a good fit for where to find the right demographic who's interested in it, because I think it's a great theme that's unique. I just don't know how greater audience the buy-in.
We're running up on our last minute.
Yeah, I think I've just seen this kind of thing a lot when the belt moves or whatever that is, the line moves in a lot of cases. Somebody gets something, I get something else. So I don't know that you're adding much here into this genre of set collecting. So for that reason, I'm out. No.
Thank you, Simon.
Wonderful way. Just a wonderful. But so I don't see something different enough. I mean, the theme is good. I mean, but this is really themeless. You could almost do anything. But I'm okay on the theme because it's obviously it's topical. It's an important thing that we should be all thinking of. So for many years before this as well.
Oh, for sure. No, I feel like with set collections, I wanted it to be an easier game to jump into, and it's very quick playing because as soon as a card passes to you, it's your turn. And so the game plays in 25 minutes, which I really enjoy. Because no offense to set collection games, some of them go a little too long and they overstay their welcome.
Okay.
Smart.
Well, thank you, Danielle, for presenting.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Danielle.
We will be putting on our next designer, who's Mackenzie Cameron. She's bringing Johnny Swartzsmith. Mackenzie is a UX designer, a game enthusiast, and she likes to design systems that help an audience discover and build their own stories.
Mackenzie is not backstage in our virtual backstage, so I'm just going to ask, could Robert Fisk join in and be prepared to go next? And I don't know if you all want to give some general words of wisdom to game designers who are trying to get interest,
on the first game that we looked at, the dice pudding. I feel like that sell sheet could really use pretty dessert pictures with a little bit of graphic design to have the dice sort of subtly added into the dessert image to sort of add some pop, some visual. I feel like that one's very heavy theme, and people have to move pretty dice around and such. So I think making that look pretty to make it a little easier for the publisher to envision what it might look like. And and his idea for having a cool dice tower, you definitely don't want that on the component list, but maybe you could have it as a suggestion. But when a publisher sees a component list, they're thinking cost. Yeah.
As a player, I thought the little fridge dice thing was really cute,
it's a cute suggestion. You might want to save it till after you're signed. I don't know, but
Robert has shown up, so we can protest
all
that.
Right. Thank you, Debbie.
We'll get back to dice towers later.
So we have Robert Fisk with Watchsmiths. And Robert is an avid gamer, and he has one game coming out this fall. Go ahead, Robert.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody hear me, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
What's the name of the game? I'm sorry.
The name is called Watchsmiths.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. And hopefully everybody can see that. Everybody can see it, right? I'm good?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Cool.
Image.
All right. So, Sharks. As a promising young watchsmith in Victorian England, You and up to 4 of your siblings have been given 36 hours to prove who is worthy of taking over the family watchmaking business. After 36 hours, whichever sibling has the most money takes over the business and wins the game. Watchsmiths takes roughly 20 minutes per player with an age range of 10 and up. This picture shows a standard setup for a 5-player game. Throughout the game, players will earn money by selling watches, the value of their personal masterpiece at the end of the game, different public objectives, as well as the personal goals your grandfather and father gave you. One main focus of the game revolves around collecting and converting watch gears in order to build your watches. In the game, there are 4 types of gears, both large and small: gold, silver, bronze, and copper. As you see on the left, each watch requires a specific combination of gears. So what does a turn look like? Well, on a player's turn, they move their worker to any new location on the board, taking an action at that location. Doing so will cost the player an hour per movement. In this example, the player moves 3 spaces, which will advance them 3 hours on the time tracker. So as you can see, through hours advanced, the marker moves from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. At each location, players can elect to do one of 3 actions. The inner level actions will give players more gears or better powers, but cost more time. As you see with the coppersmith, the outermost action gains the player 3 small copper gears. If a player were to spend an additional hour, they would instead gain a large copper gear. If they spent an additional 2 hours, they would instead gain a large and a small copper gear. Players can unlock the ability to permanently upgrade locations, so in the future, doing inner-level actions won't cost players additional time. In the background example, the player elected to do the innermost action, which advanced them an additional 2 hours. Once the active player is done with their turn, the player who is the furthest behind on the time tracker becomes an active player. Now, in most games that feature a time track, players that move far ahead are always waiting for their next turn. In Watchsmiths, players are actively involved during other players' turns by playing assistant cards. Assistant cards follow other players' actions.
1 minute left.
The assistant cards correlate to the 8 different locations on the board. Example, if Carla goes and does an action at the bronzesmith and I have a bronzesmith assistant card, I can play it and gain the same bronze gears as Carla, but it doesn't cost me any time. Each player will also have their own masterpiece watch. At points throughout the game, players will be able to add gears onto their masterpiece. This provides a challenging puzzle to players as they have to follow specific rules when scoring these gears. While you're looking at a digital version of the masterpiece, in a working physical copy, the gears actually spin and move the other gears they're touching. There's a lot more great actions and things you can do in Watchsmiths, but hopefully that gives you a brief overview of some of the theme, gameplay, and mechanics.
Last 20 seconds.
This is the kind of component list and kind of what things look like. I'd love any questions, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to stop sharing.
I like how the theme of making watches fits in with the time track, and like that is I love when like mechanics follow a theme like that. That sounds really cool.
Cool, thank you.
I love the idea of sibling rivalry.
Have you mocked up? You did like 3D printed out the gears that you want to use, or?
Yeah, so I actually I cut a bunch of like dowels into like really small circles, and then you can take like corrugated cardboard and basically make your own gears. It's very much an Etsy/Pinterest thing that I did myself, but yeah, and they work. It's pretty cool.
Overall, I don't have like much feedback because it sounds like a game like that I would be really interested in. I'd have to play it to like understand fully. I like the follow action. Like I usually don't like follow, but as long as it's like simple enough, which it sounds like it might just be like, oh, it's over with instead of like losing track of whose turn it is.
Yeah.
How do you get those extra cards to do stuff on an opponent's turn?
Yeah, the assistant cards, you can get them 2 ways. One, there's an actual spot on the board where you can go and take an action and gain 2 of them. Otherwise, every time you move on the time track, for each space you create between yourself and the player behind you, you also draw a card, an assistant card. And you're limited to having 5, so you can't just stock up on assistants and just continually play them.
I'm also interested in hearing more about it, but the goal of these presentations is to get us to be more interested. So I think you succeeded with me in that. I'd like to see more of the game.
Cool. Thank you.
I think we have 1 more minute, but Julie, Steven, do you have anything?
Sure. So specifically on the sell sheet, you have clearly spent a lot of time to show these really like this very unique theme that is well thought out. In general, I appreciate. Thank you for having up at the top the stats, the components, and your contact information. Just as a general to everybody, that's super useful. I would almost want to see a bigger picture of the spread of the entire game that you have.
Okay.
And less, again, I appreciate that you're trying to cram as much information as possible, but in truth, I just want the highlights, and then I want, if I'm interested, I'm going to know so that I can talk to you in person, and then you have that beautiful presentation already set up to show me stuff more in detail. So that is something that I think in general, working on sell sheets, having less words, more shiny, because that's, but exactly what you have up at the top, which is the key information, which was great.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, Stephen, you're muted.
It wasn't me, I swear.
No, you're still muted.
Maybe I have muted. Let me see.
Well, hold on to that. You can message him later, but we will. We have to move on to the next designer.
All right, thanks, Sharks.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
What happened?
Yeah, it says I can't unmute you, Stephen. You have to unmute.
Do you have something on your cord? Oh, he left.
Okay, let me.
He's.
At least he's realized. So.
He was very quiet for Stephen.
I know. I was like, wow.
Yeah, Twitch noticed a while ago.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Something happened in my my setup, and I had to refresh the browser. Sorry.
I got way too much talking in turn.
We all got it.
I was going to ask about the gears. Do they actually turn on the board? Is that part of the whole thing?
That's what he was saying. That basically, now I was kind of hoping he had like 3D printed versions of of what you're proposing, so that makes it much easier to price. I mean, it's cool that he handcrafted some stuff, but then that means I have to get my guys to design.
It's definitely something you have to. It's with that kind of gimmick, call it. It's definitely something you have to see, and I think all of us said the same thing. You have to see this kind of thing in action and how the whole thing would work.
It was
together.
very cool, though. We all were at least willing to want to see it, which was a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, it's so cool that I want to see it in action, and I think it's probably worth the investment to get the 3D printed little gears to show it off.
Definitely.
And I could say I played it, or I played the earlier prototype, and it was fun.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So next we have Estefania Rodriguez.
Hi.
She's joining us with Popcats Fighter, which I actually just played today. She is a first-time game designer based out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and originally from Argentina. She enjoys designing colorful products and fun games that make people smile. Estefania?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. So let me talk to you about Popcats Fighter. So Popcats Fighter is a 1v1 and 2v2 card fighting game where you build up combos, upgrade hits, use super move cards and perks to help you defeat your opponent. This game has, the mechanics are take that and hand management. One of the most fun parts about it, from feedback that I've received, is the combo building and combo progression, where you basically connect cards by connecting them with colors or shapes, and then as you move down to your combos, the combos get stronger and stronger against your opponent. Like I said, it's a 1v1, 2v2, and the time for a full game is about 60 minutes to 90 minutes.
Do we have a sell sheet for this?
I do not have a sell sheet. If you see the sign back there, that's the main character. I know, I'm so sorry. I have a little version of the board just to kind of show you the idea of what the cats look like and the board would look like, and just having combos around.
Can you scroll past that again? Because can you just show that one more time, Estefania?
Oh, yeah, sure.
When you first showed it.
Did you create the art?
No, my partner did. I did all the UI and graphic design that goes with it, but the illustrations themselves is my partner.
So when you're creating your games, you have already that all-inclusive, the art and graphic design ready to go.
This is my first game. So, I mean, to answer that question, yes. I hope always I will get that. But right now, yeah, I have somebody who's been working on it with me to do all the illustrations for the characters, which I should have mentioned, I have 8 characters.
Okay. Which is, and I'm assuming each one has its own unique set of abilities in a deck form?
So the deck, it's a one common deck. There's no individuals. What you have that are yours are 2 cards. So they're the super moves. Excuse me. 2 cards that are super moves, and those have individual abilities that pertain to your character that kind of try to stay in theme. And then the other 2 things that you have is in your character cards, you have the perks. And perks are stuff that you're able to use at any time during the game. They're not constricted as cards where you have to use them in a combo or against someone. The perks have abilities that maybe give you more cards, more health, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So we're all like drafting off a central deck to get our moves?
Yeah, so I did not want to do where you have individual decks for each character. I know that's kind of the common thing, but I wanted to stay away and have a fresh look card fighting games, which thankfully I've had really good positive feedback from it being so different.
So you're already really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
How do you get the cards in the?
It's the main deck. The main deck has 4 colors, which is blue, green, orange, and pink, and then it has defense cards.
So are you just like drawing cards from a deck?
Yeah, you just draw 8 cards. Okay. Yeah. You start off the round with 8 cards. You hold those 8 cards into the end till you go through all 3 combos. So the only way to gain more cards is by having the combos and hits that have that ability, or having your perks have that ability. But as far as redrawing, you don't redraw until the end of the round. And that's if you go to the end of the round.
Number of players?
2 and 4.
Time to play?
60 minutes to 90 minutes.
Ages? 10 and up? So
teenagers can definitely play.
I'm half being facetious about these questions because all those things would go onto a sell sheet. And I know Debbie didn't require a sell sheet. I know that. But you've got a graphic designer, right? That's your department.
I'm the graphic designer, yeah.
You're a graphic designer. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not the illustrator.
So it's really good because then we have it in front of us and we'll be looking at it. So it's just a really good thing to have. And I know you didn't have to have it here, but just in the future, just make sure that it just frames the conversation in such a way it makes it easy for both parties to just share the information. So I'm going to just focus on that.
How beautiful your art and your graphics are.
Yeah, and it's right. When you show it to
off, that's big.
Right. You had a lot to show on your sell sheet.
Yeah. I know. I really wish this is my first time
putting it in a positive light, you would have a very impactful sell sheet. So
thank you. Yeah,
I'll require it the next time. I mean,
I'm more beating up on Debbie than on you.
Kids don't do what I did. Be better than me.
Having those visuals is great. The fact that you have basically you can have close to print ready files ready for a publisher. So if they're interested in it, that massively reduces their workload. That's really wonderful. And I think the look of the art behind you is like super cool. So
thank you.
Very nice.
10 seconds.
I was impressed. You kept your presentation very short, but I still had a lot of questions about how it played when you were done. So
thank you. And I hope that's good.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you, Estefania. Have a good one.
Thanks so much.
And it looks like we have a difference. Is Kirsten not here?
Who do you have? You don't have Stuart next?
Not on mine. Let me.
Yes, I have Stuart. Yes, it's a weird leak on the sell sheet on the sheet.
Do I have the old one? I'm sorry.
I'm just looking really quick at yours. He's on yours.
I have Stuart and then Kristen.
Yeah, he's right under Estefania. So
I think I was next.
Yeah.
Sorry
about that.
Oh, good.
Sorry.
Hi, Stuart.
Hi, everybody. How we doing?
All right.
Good.
What's the game? What's the name of the game?
All right, my game is named Espalier, and it is the French art of pruning your branches to create a tree. And Carla's seen this one before. I'm just going to share my screen and make it nice and big, and I'll tell you all about it. So, first of all, Espalier is a simultaneous play, really spatial and puzzly tile laying game. You're trying to make the most beautiful tree in the garden over the 4 seasons. As you can see there, 1 to 6 players, nice short 20 to 30 minute playtime, and ages 8 and up. So first of all, each season, every player is going to get their own personal stack of tree tiles that you can see here, and also some water resources. They're going to one at a time flip over a tile and find where it fits best on their tree, starting with a cute little pot here, and then it grows into a beautiful tree across the 4 seasons. And just to mention here, everybody is playing at the same time in the game. So rather than drafting or anything like that, you are all creating your tree while other people are making their tree. To score points, one of the ways you can do it is make some different shapes. Some of them are pretty easy to make. So the lowest scoring shapes are triangles, diamonds, and squares. And then there are a big range of randomly selected difficult designs for each game. The ramp down the bottom left here is pretty easy. The house in the middle is kind of a medium, not too hard to make, and the parallelogram is quite a hard shape to make. You can spend those little water tokens you get, your own personal stash of those each game, to make fruit. So the lowest scoring and the cheapest fruit is a lemon, then you've got a lime and an orange, and the orange scores the most, and you score points based on how many branches are intersecting with that fruit. So this orange is worth 3 points per branch that's connecting there, so that's worth 12 points. Throughout the game, at the end of each season, you're going to compare against everybody else who's playing with these garden goals. There are over 20 different garden goals that are randomly selected each game. This top one in winter is the least amount of oranges on your tree. Down in autumn here, it's the most width, so how wide your tree has been built, and you get points additionally for that. We've also got a couple of fun mechanics depending on how your tree is looking. If you're getting some branches that just aren't lining up, that loses points at the end of the game. But you can pay 1 water to get a prune, and you cover up a branch that isn't connected, or you can pay 1 water to get a graft, and you can kind of add a graft and get some scoring shapes there. We've also had another kind of mechanic, which is mulching. So sometimes you can see this tile here just doesn't fit nicely. The branches aren't lining up. So you can mulch, which is discarding it to get extra water, and that allows you to buy more fruit or those graft or prune tiles. This is a picture of the second season tree. So it's starting to build. You've got some more fruit on here, and you're starting to get more shapes. This is after the 3rd season, so starting to have even more different shapes and a bigger range of fruit, and then finishing here with a finished tree. The reason people love this game, it hasn't got any take that mechanics. Everyone's playing it once, and you have that satisfaction of growing your own tree, and people tend to feel really proud of their tree they've made, even if they don't win at the end. So thanks for listening, and yeah, would love to hear your feedback.
No sell sheet for this one, right? None?
There is a sell sheet. I sent it through a little bit late to Debbie, so I'm not sure if she got that. She's busy.
Sorry, I was taking your other piece off. I can send it to people right now, but I think if you can give feedback, I did
Sure.
because I didn't see that it came in.
What does the name Espalier come from?
Espalier. So it's a French art of where you put a tree and grow it up against a lattice or a wall, and then you prune it and you can make all sorts of crazy shapes with it.
So a specific type of topiary.
Yeah, like topiary, absolutely. Yeah.
I like words. I'm a nerd. Sorry.
Yeah. I like the theme.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen other games similar to this, but it seems like it has a lot of twists, and I like all the different aspects to it. There's a lot going on, but I kind of like that.
I was going to say that I also have seen games similar to this with with tile laying, of course, and matching shapes, but then you interconnected the theme really well with the pruning and there's another mechanic there, the grafting. Really, that was like, oh wow, that really made it integral into the whole theme. I don't think I would use Espalier as a name.
Some people love it, some people hate it.
Yeah, it's too. I mean, that's really certainly for an English speaker, it's really hard. But also, it's just I don't think anybody's ever heard of that. I certainly have never heard of that. But otherwise, it looks like it has potential. Tile laying is a genre that there's a lot that can be done there, and there's a lot that has been done, but people really like it. So it's something that I would like to try out, actually.
Yeah, thanks.
So I really like the overall theme. I wish that the tiles looked a little bit more tree-like. I know you've got like the background of the lattice and such there, but when I heard the theme pitch, I was like very excited to see what the visuals would look like. And obviously, maybe these aren't final visuals, but I feel like if it looked a little bit more tree-like, the tree was a little more prominent than the lattice behind. That just as a little aside on the visual side of things. But I really love the theme. I think it's all very as Steve was saying, it's all blended in really nicely.
Well, is it meant to be final art, or is this? Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my co-designer, he pretty much like self-taught himself Photoshop and stuff. So that's like he's not a professional artist, but I think he's done a great job. We've got feedback that we could change the colors a bit and make it a bit more visually appealing and a bit more contrast. But yeah, probably not final art.
So I was just right.
Running
so
up on
I
1
was
minute.
checking.
Sure.
Okay, so that is something that it gives enough if you're trying to sell it to a publisher to give them the idea of how they would want to make it a little bit fuller, prettier, flowers, whatever.
Absolutely.
But for me, the one thing, since there are a lot of games like this and you're having this all the puzzly bits, and it is doing some unique things, the one thing that concerned me was that you were talking about water being the only resource that you spend to do things, and I probably want to diversify a little bit because I want it to be simple, or you've got the right weight, it feels like, but maybe you could add one other resource or offset what the cost is for it, type of thing. So doing a little bit more that way was the one thing that I wasn't hearing. I'd have to play to see
20 seconds
where it was at.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thanks, everybody. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thank you.
We'll be moving on to our next designer, Kirsten Lund. She's bringing Ovation. She fully embraced game design, and that took a hold while she was homeschooling her son, and she was looking for something that would fit the curriculum. So she started designing a game about music, and that's how Ovation was born. Kirsten?
Hi there, thank you. I've shared my screen if you want to pop that in. Ovation is an engine building action selection game in which you become one of the great composers of the classical era of music. The goal is to become the composer with the greatest legacy, represented by legacy points. In order to do that, on your turn, you will be taking one of 4 different actions that you can choose. They're seeking inspiration, and that's the first and primary one for your resource in the game. How do you compose without inspiration, right? So you need to gain inspiration in the game. There are 3 types: joy, passion, and sorrow, and those will be important for composing as well as for inspiring others. The second 2 actions are going to help you build your engine. They're seeking fortune and seeking patronage, and those are going to lead you to these 2 rows of cards in the market. The fortune cards, like things like taking on a pupil or working with a diva, are going to make your actions more effective as you go forward in the game. Some of the patrons do similar things with your engine and will support you to create your great works. Other ones are going to build up your legacy after you're gone, and they're going to, at the end of the game, give you bonus points for every type of music that you've performed that they love. But they're very fickle. So they will give you negative points for every type of music you've performed that they hate. I don't know why Franz doesn't like opera, but he certainly doesn't. The next thing you can do, the last action you can choose to perform, is to perform. That's where the big money is. Those are going to be these top 2 rows of cards. Chamber music or smaller pieces cost less points. Concert music, you have to work your way up to those a little bit. They cost a little bit more and are worth more points. When you perform, it's no good to perform unless you can have an audience. So when you perform, the player to your left and the player to your right can attend your performance. They'll give you one of these handy dandy little tickets. I grabbed the whole deck. One of these handy tickets. You'll get a little bit of something from them in the ticket, but more importantly, they're going to get inspired by the tone of music that you've performed. So if they attend your clarinet duet, they will gain some sorrow that they will then use to create works of their own.
1 minute.
Lastly, we have these Maestro cards. These Maestro cards are little goals that you'll achieve along the way. There are always the number of players +2, and when there are only 2 of these cards left, you will then end the game, finish the round, total up your legacy points, and the composer with the greatest legacy has won the game. For advanced play, there's player asymmetric powers, and also I'm really proud that I found some representation in the game. Mariana Martinez was the only woman to compose a symphony in the classical era, and Joseph Ballone is half Black, and I am so pleased to have found them and introduced them to people. That is Ovation, and I would thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them for you.
Thank you, Kirsten.
You betcha.
Publishers?
Tabletop simulator?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, good use of technology to just show the game off to somebody, because you're showing it without touching things and getting your hands in the way, obviously. So big points on the presentation of the game itself.
And it like makes you see you can zoom in on the right parts, which is really nice. I really like the whole like inspiration system, because theoretically you need inspiration to compose, which ties in the theme, and then there's the 3 different kinds, and like just because you're helping out others, it might not mean that you're actually helping them. Like maybe you're just giving sorrow to these people that just want joy. So I like player interaction where it might, like, you can be like, hey, I'm being so helpful. Like you can now be sorrowful too. Like you were planning on it, but now you are.
That's been a fun part of the game. I love it when people say things like, I hate joy. It's pretty funny.
It appears that the theme is well thought out throughout the mechanisms of the game, from your description of all the way through. That was very apparent that you've thought out each step of the way. Really, as a pitch, it was clear, concise. It was more a matter of actually now wanting to play it to see how well all of those things actually work together, because at a 3-minute thing, it clearly did what it intended to do. And also your sell sheet gives all the pertinent information that shows it quite clearly. So it was an excellent presentation, I would say.
Oh.
I think that the theme was quite interesting. I like that you also added the fact that you were trying to add diversity to a very difficult to add diversity to genre. And I like that it isn't, like you don't have tons of this particular specific piece. I thought it was
1 minute.
Thank you.
It's a really interesting theme as well. It has not obviously been a lot of classical music games out there. I can think of one only. Did Mike Fitzgerald ever come out with his? He was supposed to come out with one at one point. So there's been very few of these.
Music games. I don't know if I've ever seen one specifically for this. So
yeah. So, while not
off the top of my head,
a huge fan of classical music, I know enough about it that I would be drawn a little bit just to check out this kind of game with this kind of theme. So. I think it's underdone, and therefore a good idea to try it. So definitely something I would be interested in trying out.
I've had playtesters from non-musical people all the way to music majors, and there has been only one little terminology question ever, and I think the line in the rule book would take care of that. All the rest of it is user-friendly. My son is now 11, and he's my main playtester, and he can do it.
Good sign.
Well, thank you very much, Kirsten.
Nice pitch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Next up, we have Johnny with Battle for Vittoria. He started his own indie entertainment development company called Podfather Studios.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry
A bell we were going to use but didn't. There is a sell sheet for this one too.
Yep. PTS, right?
Also, Johnny, you are muted, I believe. You're muted. Okay.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
All right, there we go. Just gonna share my screen. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So I'll get started. So I'm just Johnny. I run Punkta Studios, and we make games and stuff, mostly just games, fun stuff. And we made a board game called Battle for Victoria. Battle for Victoria is a competitive grand strategy tabletop war game where you're going to be making lots of important decisions, and those decisions can affect the loyalty of your units. And the reason why that's important is because at any point in the game, if your units ever lose loyalty and they didn't have any to lose, they will leave your army. And even worse, if you don't have any units within your army that are loyal to you, well, they're vulnerable to being persuaded by the enemy's warlord. And instead of leaving your army, they will leave yours and join theirs, which is like even more worse. There's a lot of nuances to the game. There's an alignment system that ties into the decisions that you have to make. Most of the decisions are going to be based on law versus chaos. So there are resource points, they're called settlements, and you can go up to a settlement and you have a major decision you have to make, which is, do you want to pillage that settlement or do you want to protect that settlement? And those are law and chaotic decisions. And based on the decision you make and the units that are in your army, it could cause law units or chaos units to gain or lose loyalty based on that decision, and it will happen to all of them within your entire army. So you have to weigh those decisions very carefully, and there's a bunch of other points in the game that you're going to be making lots of decisions like that. There's absolutely no randomness in this game whatsoever. That ties into the competitive nature of it. There's no deck drawing, no dice rolling. There are dice, but it's just for damage counters.
1 minute.
There is another big thing is there's no giant player turns that are happening. Instead, the individual units are taking their turn, and depending on who owns the unit, that player is going to be taking their turn. So the turns go through very quickly. This is a very large, heavyweight game for gamers that are expecting that sort of thing. However, there is a beginner version of the game, which is significantly smaller in size. The sell sheet is for the standard version. That's the big one. The beginner version of the game is like 1/3 the size of the big one. What else? Let's see. We're almost done with alpha, and we're right now prepping for Kickstarter. I think that's about everything I have.
All right, publishers.
Johnny. So these are your units here on this cell sheet?
Yeah. Yes, that's character artwork. Yeah, those are characters that you can employ within the game. Yep.
So characters, plains, rivers, mountains. Those are all.
That is the terrain. Yep. So what you see on the sheet itself.
Okay.
And I also have a share of my screen. I forgot to flip through the image, but it shows a big picture of what a table setup would look like.
Yeah, that's okay. That's your board. Okay.
Yeah. So the big green thing, that is the battle map. Right above that is the initiative table. The initiative table takes care of turn handling and round handling. And then everything else that you see all around it is unit reference cards that are going to keep track of damage and loyalty and other counter stuff.
So I feel like your board looks way scarier than it should. So at a quick glance, it looks like all the planes are the same. They have the same stats on them, but you have the stats printed on each one. Yeah. Yep. So basically, I would get rid of all those stats. Just make it look like pretty planes. Like I look at this board and it looks like a giant math problem that I've been assigned, and I'm scared.
100. That's not 100%.
And that's cool, but like basically, the players of a game of this difficulty, they're gonna know what a planes does. You'll have it in the rule book. You can have a reference card that says what the terrain types do, but basically having those stats on every single tile just makes the tiles look scary as heck.
They're not even tiles, and they're not even tiles, right? This is the board.
Oh, sorry, the board. This is the
board.
The zones. Yeah,
and every forest acts the same. Just get rid of it all. Get rid of all of that information on there. It's just there's no you just overdid everything that.
Yeah, I've play tested with both, and more than not, and it wasn't an even split, and it wasn't a landslided split. It was a hard decision, but I've gotten players that wanted tooltip like information for a quick reference, and I've gotten players that do want it removed out. That's where the beginner version comes into play. There's much less clutter in iconography.
You're shrinking your demographic by doing it 100%. From somebody who actually loves playing games like this, you're shrinking your demographic you're making it look more inaccessible.
I'm an old school war gamer.
Yeah.
Back in the day. I don't play them much now. I'm an old school war gamer, and I would be like, why do I need all this? I know this. It's in my head. It's here, my quick ref. I liked what you I really don't like this cell sheet at all. Just kind of show the board there, and that gives you the idea of what you're going to be kind of doing. And these cards are really important then to explain, like, well, what are these creatures going to be doing for me in the game?
Okay. Yeah, like the board should be pretty, so you get people that are drawn in and they want to know more. But if it's just numbers, like nobody's gonna walk by it at a convention and like want to know more.
This is a bigger game.
All the time we have. It's just a smaller group that will want to. A much smaller group.
This is a bigger game, obviously, that we can like digest, like especially in this amount of time here, and we got to move on. I know. It's the kind of thing that I would like to see how this is going to work, but the presentation of this isn't. You need to work on this presentation of how this information is going to be presented to the game.
Yeah, I'm excited about your description, but yeah, I agree. The cell sheet needs work to look more enticing.
Yeah. All right.
Good luck,
Thank
Johnny.
you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have our next person, Noe Escobar, bringing Dungeons Inc. He's a designer from Mexico City, living in Vancouver, Canada, and he's been designing games for a year now, and this is his first pitch.
Hey.
Hi, guys. How's it going? Everyone can hear me?
Hey there.
Yep.
Hi.
Perfect. If I can share my screen. Meanwhile, when you play a dungeon crawler, that you go into a dungeon and kill the monsters and then get the loot and then get out. And then you go back to the dungeon and there's most monsters there to kill and then get out. Oh, well, the question is, who is, can everyone see it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. The question is, who is bringing those monsters? And that's you. So, Dungeons Inc. Here we go. Dungeons Inc. is a solo tower defense game that will take you about 45 minutes to finish. It is also a dungeon resource management with a touch of push your luck, on which you will play the part. On which you will play the part of a MR or monster resource management of this particular dungeon. You have been appointed by Mr. BBD, or the Bit by Dragon, the CEO of this dungeon. The CEO of this dungeon, to make sure that no hero makes it to his office, with the promise that if at least one hero makes it to his office, you're gonna be fired and immediately eaten because of your incompetence. The only way to keep your job secure and your head in place is to eliminate every single hero that tries to bother your new boss. The core mechanic of the game is based on an economic system. You will start your job with an initial budget that you will use to hire several different monsters, and then you will place those monsters in strategic points of the dungeon to help achieve your goal of stopping the hero's advance.
1 minute.
As any other business, you have to pay your employees every round. So making sure to protect also your mines is something that you should be aware of. This is a game. Dungeon Think is a middle complexity game that is serious enough to challenge an analytic player who enjoys number crushing and probability and efficiency. But it's also silly enough that it's going to please your hardcore D&D player who just wants to have a fun adventure, kicking butts and taking names, with a story that we all know and love. And that's about it.
All right.
And this is the an image of all the components, how it works, and how it looks on the tabletop simulator.
All right, we'll move to the publishers.
And that's it.
So this is a solo gameplay?
It is right now. It's a solo player. I'm working on the 2-player rules, but it started as a solo player, basically because with this pandemic situation, you need something.
Oh yeah, no, that's smart. So my question is, so have you gone to any solo groups to talk to them about what they're looking for? Because thematically, I love the theme. It sounds hilarious. It's taking the whole dragon lair dungeon crawl and turning it on its head and making it like I can see the art in my head of what it would be in my head but my question is, when I go to solo groups over and over again, they want a story. Is there a story? Is there a campaign to it? Or is this all just numbers beat the puzzles, getting the points?
Right now, it's all numbers beat the puzzle, getting the points. But again, on the two player system that I'm working on, I'm working on a campaign kind of idea. But I
strongly recommend coming up with some sort of campaign to go with it, because that is overwhelmingly what solo players are looking for. You will have some people who want this, but if you're looking, I mean, you've picked a specific target demographic, which there are a lot of, and even more of right now, which is smart.
Yeah.
But make sure that you're providing them with what they want.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and sticking with your comedy theme through that campaign, would be, great. Like, you're promoted, but now your boss is going to eat you if you don't do X, Y, or Z. It's.
There's some great storyline comedy tropes. Like, you could just go through like all of Community and Parks and Rec and go through and get every trope and make campaigns based off of those. I would actually love the research for that.
1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love the idea of a campaign version, and it doesn't have to be like all that different. Like, if it's just like slightly different setups or in-game conditions, or like this thing is like different points in a different campaign, like it could be like one difference that's its own game, and do it like 20 times. Like, just make it different and
adding in certain monsters that, etc.
The magic word here is campaign. Great.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Have you guys all played or at least heard of Dungeon Pets and Dungeon? Vlada Schwadl, one of his early game designs.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. This is like a
20
very
seconds.
basic version of that. It looks like that was a much more complex game, multiplayer also. But this definitely sounds interesting, and having that kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of thing is definitely good. And a solo is working these days.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you,
Awesome.
Noe.
Oh, thank you very much. Have
Thank
a nice
you.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Appreciate it. All right. Next up is Stevenson Streeper with Bajillions. Stevenson opened Puzzlarium as the first escape room in San Diego 6 years ago. And since then, his company has installed multiple international copies of The Floor is Lava, which is his room-sized party board game. This is the first board game, though, and he looks forward to finding a publisher.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing seeing you guys here. I'm here, you're here. This is amazing. What a coincidence. This is Bajillions, the party game about massive numbers and fascinating facts. The heart of the game, it can be done in a very simple question. For instance, which of these numbers is bigger? The number of pennies the U.S. minted in 2019, or the total value of all Bitcoins in the world at its peak in U.S. dollars? Basically, the entire game is based around questions like these, some of them a bit sillier than others. And you compare these questions against each other, and then you compare them to see which of them is bigger. Players bet on which number they think is bigger all at once, and they earn points 1 to 5 based on whether they were correct in terms of the amount that one was built over the other one, meaning that the higher you go, the more points you get. And if you go too high, you, of course, get nothing. And shame.
And shame.
The game, you then earn points because, who doesn't like points? The object of the game is quite simple. At any point in time, you can risk points to go for double or nothing. If you risk 6 points and you're right, you get a jillion. If you get 3 jillions, you've won the game. That's basically it.
All right, publishers.
Can you turn in 6 points to get a jillion, or do you have to? You collected 6 points. Now I have the opportunity to try and win one of these 3 victory conditions.
Right, you've got to risk them. So the purpose of the having multiple different point systems on here is purely so that it forces whoever's in the lead to have to take large risks in order to progress. And so, for instance, white here can risk these 6 points here. If they risk them, and they are correct, and no one bet better than them and was correct, they can trade these 6 points in for a jillion, getting them 1/3 of the way to winning. The advantage to this as well is that it helps to prevent the runaway winner effect, which is never especially fun in a party game.
So it doesn't matter how many points I have. All that lets me do is risk for getting jillions.
That is correct. The only purpose of these points is to get jillions. And you can, of course, like, for instance, if you were correct here at 10x, then you get 3 points. And then if you could also have risked 2 points on top of that, so you'd get 3 points plus 2 points. You get lots and lots of points, which is nice. And then that's 6 of them will let you get a jillion.
So this is Wits and Wagers with some different rules.
So yes, it is similar to Wits and Wagers in that sense. However, it works out different parts of your brain because it works with giant numbers and the fact that humans are inherently bad at giant numbers. Of course, they also have well-sourced facts on the back that is a little bit better than a random chance. If you're good at Fermi estimation, you actually stand a decent chance of doing a bit better.
Like the jillions that we're spending right now to keep the economy afloat, that kind of stuff. Okay.
Exactly.
We're trying to distract ourselves from that, Stephen, by playing this game. What are you doing?
1 minute.
It does. The silliness factor is definitely there. I could see it being a very fun, thematically, and the fact that you're waging for jillions ties in nicely with the money aspect or the numbers aspect of trying to guesstimate what things are. To maybe take it a little bit further away from Wits and Wagers, maybe having something like having a bluffing mechanic of somebody who knows the answer and trying to convince people what it is or isn't, something to that effect to get it a little bit further away. But I don't know. I looked at it and I thought that makes me laugh. So there was that.
20 seconds.
Another big advantage of this too is that it can also be played entirely effectively over video call, which is a very good thing to do right now, especially. So, yeah.
I like the trivia comparison. We played a game like that. Do you remember? Yeah. It was out of print, and I think it was German. It was not silly. So I think this would be fun.
I'm concerned that points don't
Yes,
mean
I have it.
anything except
Yeah.
to get a Jillion. I mean, that's it. I have to see how that works for, I guess, to if that feels right. But
Oh, I felt
I
it
would
made
just
sense
call
for
it
what it
different.
is. It's well, perhaps, but for a party game, I find that the swinginess of it makes sense because it's evening playing field
Sure.
when you're playing with an 8-year-old.
All
like
right.
me,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
somebody with the intelligence of an 8-year-old like me.
Next is Greg Loring Albright. He's bringing Keep the Faith. He is a game designer and a PhD student from Philadelphia. He makes games for tables, outdoor spaces, museums, and even the tunnels beneath downtown Chicago. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you. Can you all see my screen share?
Yes.
Wonderful. Great. Hello, publishers. Thank you for your time. I'm here with a somewhat unorthodox pitch for you. I'm bringing you a collaborative storytelling game. It plays 2 to 5 players in 45 or 90 minutes. I'll get to that spread. I know it's a weird representation. Keep the Faith is inspired by games like Fog of Love, games that use the representational power of board games to power a story-first, light role-playing experience. This game, as you can see, is about religion. Following the model established in Alex Roberts' great storytelling game For the Queen, we'll take turns answering questions about our time with a charismatic teacher. As we answer those questions, our fellow players will say things like, that sounds like the teacher was advocating for us to welcome the outsider. So you can see we've got these 6 core values in the middle of the table. And as we listen to each other tell stories, we place cubes. So I don't place a cube when I tell a story. Someone else hears my story and places a cube. And they place the tokens. And this way we build a visual representation of what each of our characters believes. That's the first game, and it takes about 45 minutes. But this is not just one game. This is a suite of 2 interlocking games. So the second game uses the placement of all of these tokens as the jumping off point. In this game, instead of answering questions about the teacher, we are now leading the different sects of the religion, generations or even centuries after the teacher is dead. In this game, we roll a die, which tells us the value that we have to give up. So in this case, the die is on 1, so we have to give up welcome the outsider. And we're going to pair that die roll with a card. So over on the left here, you can see the altar. We could talk about how if we are giving up welcoming the outsider, maybe the altar used to be a thing that everyone touched on their way in, and now the altar is only touched by the priest. So we would move our token, as you can see in the second image, up here to guard the faith. The altar now has this moment of protection, of keeping people away. So these moves occur throughout the second game, and they, over time, show the realignment of the faith, showing how an institution can shift over time until it becomes something even its founder would not recognize. Thank you. These 2 games can be played back-to-back for a longer 90-minute session, or they can be played separately at 45 minutes each. There's a game sheet or a snapshot that you can use to save your first board to start your second board. Having time in between the 2 games nicely simulates this idea of the imperfect keeping of memory over generations. This is a simple game, and it's paired with a dense and sometimes difficult topic. Intentionally so, I really designed this game to open the space for players to collaborate, to share, and to get into this sort of ludonarrative idea of telling stories and moving pieces without feeling pressured by the system. Like Fog of Love and For the Queen, this game leverages simple mechanics to generate emergent collaborative gameplay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Publishers.
Is there a way to win or lose, or is it just you experience it?
You just experience it.
So this is not a... Go ahead, Julie.
Looking at both the sell sheet and your description, there's... So religion, to me, I don't shy away from it. I actually find it a fascinating topic. But it's very dry in presentation, which I don't think it actually is the way you're presenting it, or isn't necessarily that it has to be. Totally. You're talking about even the concepts, and when you say so, Fog of Love is interesting because it's about personal relationships and the tension between humans who are trying to find a commonality and whether that works out or not. This is looking at social relationships within a very specific construct, which is still very interesting to me because it's a very hot button topic, and it can be many different religions. And you gave an example of first you're the student learning that religion, and now but but you kind of almost put it in generational. So it's not so much that it's a fledgling religion versus one that has an established roles. So how do you pull that in to make it something that seems intriguing and an investment? And so making sure that when you do your pitch, you're pulling at it's about human interaction is important. And I'm going to stop there because I'm talking a lot.
That's very useful. Thank you.
Stephen had stuff to say.
Well, I was going to say that I'm also I'm not shy about doing a game about religion. I did Sola Fide, which for the 500th anniversary of the Lutheran Revolution. But that's a serious game. This is more like, and I think you know that this is more like it's a social interaction. It's almost a storytelling that you're going to be doing here, a collaboration. So this is not a game that most publishers would do, and I would in my previous role, I would not do a game like this. It's interesting. I think there might be an audience for this, but that would be for religious groups specifically, whereas the game that I did was a gamer. I
disagree.
Game. Okay, that's
1 minute. I disagree.
That's cool.
Specifically, what was the game that just came out? You have to take a political stance. You're playing for political power. It was on Kickstarter, and you could do the American or UK or India. I can't remember the name of the game. But it's very striking. It's a black box, all with metal. Do you know which game I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I can't call the name to mind, but it looks awesome.
Which is killing me because I backed it on Kickstarter and I played it, so I should know the name. But it's of that where because you have to take on the role of a religion, not necessarily a religion you believe in, but the kind of sidesteps that it's about indoctrination into a specific religion, and then it's not about indoctrination. It's about experiencing what religion does in society, and that to me is a much bigger audience.
20 seconds. Any last comments?
It could even be like more of a teaching game, because there's plenty of people that think religion is static and it's always been this way, but that's not true. Religion changes all the time. The religions that people are following now, they've probably changed in the last 5 years, and they're very different than the last 500 if they're that old. There's a lot of changes and things like that, and just being able to actually teach people how that happens and go through that, I think that would really I don't know, blow their minds of some people who've never thought about how history works.
Right. Or conversely, dialect, which is an RPG about the evolution of language. There's precedent to do something, but in one that it's not tons, but enough that it's established that I do think that there are people out there who are interested in this would be interested in it as long as you present it that way.
All right.
Please send them my way. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Bill, are you on?
Looks like Bill. Oh, wait. No, Bill is not on yet.
All right.
So does anyone want to talk about dice towers now?
You do not put a dice tower in a game unless it has a meaning to the game. It's not part of the game.
So I will ask.
Sometimes people like shiny bits. I actually think so. It reminded me of
four of them over here. I have a dice tower. I want to play the dice tower.
I have the Apocalypse one that is just sat there forever. I understand. But you can also work it in if it's something like. I actually think so.
All right.
Reminded me of
over here. I agree.
What's
Sorry.
happening? Oh,
that must be Bill's.
I'm glad you're paying attention.
My kid
Thank
grabbed
you so
my
much
phone.
for listening to us.
Funny.
Sorry, we're gonna. I'll stop now.
We'll yell about dice towers again in a second. Hi, Bill. How are you?
This is
Hey, Steve.
Bill Lacey with Lightspeeders. He designed the game Koi, which was published with Smirk and Laughter Games, and he is right now a judge at the Board Game Workshop's 2020 design competition. All right, go ahead, Bill.
Hi.
Hi, Bill.
Hey. Hi, guys. So Bill Lassick. I'm a contract board game designer out of Central New Jersey, and I'm really excited to tell you about Lightspeeders. It's a 2 to 4 player battle racing game with the feel of Tron Light Cycles meets Mario Kart. So the game teaches in less than 2 minutes. A battle race plays in under 10. An entire game plays in about 30 minutes, making it very easy to get to the table, which is important in this environment we're in. So the game of Lightspeeders is as such. There's going to be 25 polyominoes arranged in a rondelle in front of each player, and they're going to be neon. On a player's turn, they're placing the polyominoes onto a grid in front of them, connecting to previously placed pieces. The goal of the game is for them to place their polyominoes to create a light trail to prevent all other players from being able to fit one of their pieces onto the grid. Whoever does this wins the battle race. But what's really interesting about the grid they're playing on is just like an old 80s arcade game, it's looped. So players can place a piece to leave the right side of the board and come in on the left, or leave the top of the board and come in on the bottom. So you can use it to get out of some really bad situations or put your opponents into them. So because of this mechanism, the edges of the board tend to be safer. But I want to encourage people to go towards the center where things can get a little more dicey and even more exciting. So to do that, I've placed power-ups in the game. The more power-ups players go over, the more abilities they'll have access to. These are critical tools, things like jumps or speed boosts that will allow them to maybe eke out the win in the game. So each player's turn goes fast and there's no AP. Players only have access to 2 polyominoes on their turn. Whatever piece they select, they're going to place their speeder token in its place. On their next turn, they're only going to have access to the next 2 pieces. So the meaningful choice is going to affect not only their current turn, but what they're going to be able to do on their following turn. With a race lasting 10 minutes, the game plays until someone's won 2 total races. To ensure that there's a good escalation in the game, though, and that no one ever really feels left out, players that don't win a battle race are given bonus power-ups in the following race to help them get the edge and possibly the win for the game. So no one really feels out of the game until the game itself is completely over.
1 minute.
I'm really proud of this game. I'm a child of the 80s, and I've always loved Tron light cycles. I think this game, more than anything else in the market, captures that, but not only that, enhances it with the power-up mechanism, making it very approachable, fun, and I'd love to see what you guys think about it. That's Lightspeeders.
All right, publishers.
Seems like this game would be incredibly easy to teach. Like from your description, it sounds like I just place one of these shapes on the table, and that's my turn. And then the next player places a shape, etc. Go around the table, making our little light pass. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. I say teach in under 2. I can teach in about 1 minute.
What do the power-ups give you?
Various abilities. Each player will have a double-sided card, so you can choose which abilities you're playing with. But they mixed up. Like some of them are a jump, which allows you to skip several spaces. There's a speed boost, which allows you to place several pieces. There's an ability where someone can choose any piece on their rondelle. Another one where you can drive through someone's light trail.
Oh, how are pieces chosen? You said
there's a rondelle at the start of the game in front of each player of 25 identical pieces. So player's first piece is going to be any piece in their rondelle, but they're going to place a speeder token in its location, and on their following turns, they can only choose the next 2 pieces.
Okay.
What are your thoughts, Carla, Julie?
So it's the components are what actually concern me. I'm thinking it sounds like it very similar to Rainbow Knights from Ninja Division, but with a couple, like the fact that you can go off the board and loop, and the power-ups make it different. My concern is if it's these components, you're going to have to make them, like, especially if you're supposed to be able to trail over them, they have to be flat. And I'm not like to make it just plain neon, which fits the theme, but I don't know how exciting it's going to look to play. But if I get big chunky plastic pieces, it's not, the cost would be offset by the fact that it's a 10-minute game. So that's my big my concern isn't I think it would be fun. My concern is actually the components. So I'm thinking of it as a publisher only. Where would it fit?
Well, I'm trying to sell it, so I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Can you overlap the pieces? No, you cannot.
No, the pieces never overlap.
Right.
So
I thought there was power-ups that said that you can't.
It allows you to drive through it, so you actually remove the piece you would drive through off the board.
But Julie's point is really important because, like Blocus, right? Blocus. That game, I don't even know if it's still in print. That game these days would be very expensive to make. and I can see the pieces for this having to be like that. Not to mention, these are really hard pieces to make, even in plastic, with these big curves in them and things like that. Not hard to make, but hard to keep so that they don't break. Let's think about it that way. These pieces are going to snap. So production of this game is going to be a particularly big problem. I want to play this game. I want to play this game right now. I'm serious. I mean, I think the game will be a crap ton of fun because I love Blockus. I think that's a great abstract game. I think this would be a great
I love Rainbow
game as
Nights.
well.
I
don't know that game, but
fun.
It may be
Blockus, I love it.
It may be good for a digital application.
Mhm.
There's a lot of those production issues all disappear on the digital side. So
And right now, there's a need for more digital games.
Good one, yeah.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
want to play this, man. Bill, I want to play this. Bill, do I know you back from New Jersey? You look really familiar.
Yeah, it was the night of the Stronghold at the first PAX next to your cardboard cutout.
So speaking of wanting to play, do you have it on Tabletop Simulator or anything?
I'm actually programming it on Tabletop Simulator. So it's probably gonna take about a month because I have a 3-year-old. But I actually just started doing it because of all the fun COVID stuff going on right now.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Great.
Bill, thanks. I want to play with you.
All right.
Thank you.
Reach out.
Thanks. Oh, sorry.
All right,
You're done.
We're actually I think, we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. You guys are doing great.
Awesome.
Let's argue about, dice.
Our next designer duo is Scott and Kara Reynolds. They started working on this game about 1.5 years ago, and this is their very first game. They're coming with Pier 13.
Hey, guys.
Hi, everybody. Debbie, Rob, Carla, it's nice to see you guys again. Debbie was nice enough to let us jump in on this again to get a little more practice. So I'm Scott, and this is my wife, Kara, and we're going to start by showing you the board and talking about it a little bit here. So.
This is our game, Pier 13. It's a competitive fishing family game with a transition into action and resource management. It's a 2 to 5 player game over a 20 to 50 minute time period for ages 8 and up. It's a highly replayable game with some strategic gameplay and unexpected outcomes. You win by weighing your catches after a 10-day fishing trip. And to start the game, each player rolls the dice and coins. Each player then uses up to 3 out of 4 actions available. These actions include moving along the pier to different fishing locations, buying equipment or bait at the bait shop, picking an event card, or going fishing. Even on the first day of fishing, you will have enough power and bait to go fishing. The goal is to buy equipment. You can buy 3 levels of upgraded equipment at the bait shop, including rods, lines, reels, and lures. The more equipment and power you have, the bigger fish you can catch, which in turn, the more weight you will have for your win. The prize tokens under each fish you catch adds a surprise element where you can fish up extra coins, bait, and actions. The pick a card action allows you to pick an event card that may have bait, coins, bait shop privileges and discounts, power-ups, broken lines, fishing nets contests, and the ever so sought after shark. We haven't seen any other games like ours. Our fishing game was designed to be easy to learn. It is meant to be colorful and full of beautiful art. It is resource driven with dice and card play. While there is some randomness, there is still room for players to choose their playing style by choosing how to use event cards, where and what to fish, and how far they'd like to upgrade their equipment. It's fun to catch your favorite fish, collect prizes, and interact with opponents. We encourage you to take a look at our Instagram page for more info and gameplay. It's called Pier 13 Fishing, and you can find that name at the bottom of the sell sheet. We also were able to set up Tabletopia for you to play the game if you'd like, and thank you so much for taking time to hear about our game.
All right, back to the publishers.
So a couple of us saw this in our last event. So Stephen and Julie, you have not, but Carla, Rob, and I have given them feedback. Obviously, no pressure.
You have the floor.
No pressure. All right, so just on the sell sheet, a little less wall of text at the bottom there. It's hard to digest that. And I know you're excited about fishing. Go fishing. Find the shark. Win. You don't need that. Just use that space in a more logical way to break up some of that text a little bit better. I'm not a fisherman myself, But I eat a lot of fish. I love fish. So I think this would be something interesting in general to check out. I'd have to see exactly how it plays, though. I was not able to get quite enough information, I think, on the gameplay.
Okay.
So the biggest feedback I have is, so you have on here ages 8+. And then you want it to be a family game, and fishing to me is a great, like, I feel like that's a pretty across the board thematically. You can get a lot of buy-in for a lot of families to buy something of that theme. But 20 to 50 minutes is a big range for an 8-year-old. It's a big range so if you want it to be a family game, and component-wise, that's a lot of components for a game that's supposed to be for an 8-year-old. So it's okay to say it's for ages 10 and up or 12 and up if that's really what you mean, or you need to think about what you're pulling out of it to simplify to make sure that it is from ages 8 and up truly. Because I know John Charles Whittier would peace out after 25 minutes, and he plays a lot of board games.
Yeah, obviously it's obviously 10 minutes per player. That's what it comes out to. So I'm sure exactly what you're doing there.
And if you want your whole family to play, you want them to hang in for the whole time. So that to me is the biggest, like, either, saying, maybe it is a 10+ game, or say, okay, so how do we make it so that the youngest player is going to be invested throughout the whole game, and not just the youngest player who's in a family of gamers, but like the youngest player.
But
so that to me was the biggest feedback of noticing. Like, it seems like interesting, family friendly. Would want to play it to get a better feel for it, to give specific feedback. That was the one thing that stood out to me.
If the game mechanics do support 8+, which let me make assumption it does. If the game mechanics do support 8+, then agreed, 50 minutes is a lot. Figure out a way, maybe instead of getting 10 rounds, it goes to 8 rounds and it's only a 40-minute game or something like that. Maybe that's the way to shrink it down right? So that's a balancing act, because I agree. 1 hour-ish games for an 8-year-old could be a little bit rough, but if that's what you're looking for, to get 8-year-olds into a family game, change those mechanics to strip down the timing.
You also have to be careful if you're playtesting with your own family. Sometimes your kids might be a little advanced. So, like, your 8-year-old can handle it, but can every 8-year-old handle it? Like, basically, I always add a few years to my when I think of games for this age, I'll bump it up a little, because the last thing I want is angry customers saying, "Hey, what the heck? You said this was for a 9-year-old. This is way too hard." Like, so I don't know if everybody feels that way, but I'm a little nervous about making sure that it's easy enough for that target age.
We have a 5-year-old that plays with us, but it's
okay. So it sounds like you probably are in the 8. That's and just one super minor thing, when you have your components list as a manufacturer, like bait shop, if you could say like bait shop board, or so when I look at it, I know, okay, what am I manufacturing? What are my costs here? So if you have something that's a little cryptic, just add one word to let me know. Is it a board? Is it a card? Is it what is it, a plastic piece? What is it?
Standing, right?
You're putting worms in the box. That's the bait shop. You're putting worms and chilies.
All right, we're running up on time. Scott and Kara, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Our next designer is Nate Roeder with Sea Glass. He's a hiker, ceramicist, paddleboarder, adventurer, dog father, coffee drinker, book reader, and grad student. I think I covered it all.
Renaissance guy.
Hey, good evening. How's everybody doing?
All right.
Good.
I believe I was like the last person on the list, so it's been a long day of playtesting, and I'll try to keep this short, or even shorter than the short time we were given. But anyways, my game is it's called Sea Glass. You collect, you clean, and you create. You collect sea glass from the beach. You clean the beach, get rid of all that marine debris and trash that people leave scattered around. And then you make different designs with the sea glass you pick up and the trash you pick up. That's kind of the thematic basis for this design. Can everyone see my screen right now?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. So you can picture yourself like staring down at like a rocky beach, and these little pieces scattered everywhere, the sea glass pieces. On each player's turn, you will select a shape from one of the columns here, and you will pick up pieces of sea glass of one color across different tiles in that shape. So for example, if I want to use this 3 shape, I could pick up 3 red pieces of sea glass across 3 different tiles, and I would place them on my player board here where I am designing, in this case, different necklaces of varying lengths and different patterns that I'm aiming for as well. And you're allowed to kind of pick what necklace strands to work on, what patterns to go for, and there's a lot of flexibility there. So players take turns kind of alternating, picking up those different shapes of one color. And in the second half of the game, you're allowed to pick up shapes of any color sea glass, because there's less sea glass on the beach.
1 minute.
And in the final section of the game, you're also picking up these tiles, which can be used to enhance your designs and give you additional bonus points. And I want to tie that in thematically with like things like rope or bottle caps or fishing lures, which might actually be like really used in when making jewelry and combining it with sea glass and whatnot that you scoop up from the beach. So that's kind of the basic game and a quick overview. I'm sure that's not much to go on, but it's kind of the general gist of the game. So.
All right. Well, thank you. Publishers?
I like that the theme is really different. I also like the escalation of the game where there's 3 parts. There's the same color and a shape, and then do the other shape but not the same color, and then whatever the last part was. I like that it changes as it goes along. And then like the table presence just looks like you put the screen up and I was like, yeah, I want to know more. I see these things and I'm interested.
Nice.
So yeah, I think at this point I just like need to play it to see like how it actually plays out. But yeah, it's very interesting, and like I was really into the pitch.
Excellent. That's great to hear.
So I like the theme as well. One thing I might do is take a look at what is currently available in mass production glass beads. There's a ton of those out there. This looks like a game that would really benefit from pretty components. There are plastic and glass things that are mass produced that currently exist, which you can get at fairly cheap for production purposes. So if you could meld what you're trying to collect to stuff that exists and is inexpensive for a manufacturer, that could potentially be nice. Obviously, we can make our own molds and do stuff from there, but it might be a little nice point for you, especially if you for making your prototype. Obviously, the manufacturer could change it, but making a nice prototype with those pre-existing beads could be really make it a little more compelling.
Definitely, and that might help kind of tie in the theme a bit more, and kind of it's a pretty abstract game in its current form. So
it's a beautiful abstract, but the thing is, it has the potential to be a beautiful abstract game, and so the tiles having them with a sandy, like that, it could be made very pretty. That was very apparent even in its current form, that it has that potential of having a Sagrada or Azul type presence pretty wise, and while tying into the abstract theme quite well, or the theme while still remaining an abstract game. For me, the one thing I need on your sell sheet I need to know duration of play, number of players, age range. You have everything else.
Yeah,
and I need those stats right up front and center.
I think I apologize. I think I might have sent you like the wrong version. When I was making that, I'm not like the best graphic designer. I think I might have accidentally covered up one of like that text box on accident.
So
I
about
agree.
how long is this supposed to go?
30 to 40 minutes, ages
Perfect.
8+.
Yeah, perfect time. You have plenty of room up there at top, like Julie says. Put those on right up there at top where it says sea glass, right? Well, at least our version of it would look great right up there. How long it goes.
But other
the game
than
is
that,
really pretty.
Yeah,
and I would like to see this game on the table. Slight issue making those components. I mean, yes, there's some off the shelf kind of stuff. Hopefully, the ending cost of making the little beads wouldn't be too much, but in general. Very pretty. Have a great table presence. I'd like to see this thing in action.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nate.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That seems to be the last of our designers. So actually, if we could go around to each one of the publishers for like a final tip for designers watching, whether it's towards sell sheets or pitching, I think that'd be a good way to close out. Start with Deb and Rob.
Bring a sell sheet.
Yeah.
I think watch these. The reason why we created these sessions is so you could see the feedback on the different designers. So watch them and listen to that feedback and make sure you're not making, the feedback that people got. Try to take that into consideration when you prepare your presentation and your sell sheet, which is going to be required the next time.
And I'm a sucker for visuals. Like if you can, so for example, with this sea glass game, if I were pitching it, I definitely would, get glass beads or whatever from a fish store or what craft store or whatever, and make it a little bit prettier, because I personally can picture what that last game would look like. And wow. Another example is the game which had the no sell sheet but really great art. Like get those if you have the prettiness, get it front and center.
All right, and Julie.
Every single person here clearly knew their game inside and out. What the toughest thing is when you spend all your time working on a game is being able to get it down to this 3 minutes. So I congratulate every single person here who clearly practiced beforehand so that they could try to hit the key points. When you're selling to a publisher, you're going to want to add a lot of extra stuff about how your mom inspired you to make this. And that's a beautiful story that I'm going to want to hear if I want the game. But I need to know first if I want the game. So keeping it to 3 minutes is a hard limit, and practicing that so that you don't take all of those other wonderful additions to your information that aren't the key points, keeping them out until I ask you for more is super important. And congratulations to everybody because they successfully did that tonight.
Excellent. Carla?
In the first 30 to 60 seconds, what I really need is the player count, the ages, the time, and why this is super cool and different and why I should listen more. What is the hook to the game? Why do I need to know all the rest of this stuff?
And then Steven.
Biggest piece of advice is that dice towers are not game components.
Stop it with the dice towers.
They're not game components. Okay.
Well, so I'm gonna agree. He said dice tower was the best part, and I was like, okay, tuning out. I tried to get back in.
I will agree that saying your component is the best part is not a good sell to a publisher who's going to tell you what components are the best parts, because
three of them sitting over there.
I agree.
Sitting over there, and they're not their game accessories. Anyway, that's not the biggest way. Sell sheets. Get them right. There's 1,000 great examples out there. And the sell sheet is always a PDF. It's not a JPEG. It's not a PNG. It's always a PDF. There's a reason why PDFs were created, because they create a standard way that you can print these things always exactly the same. You guys are all too young to remember when Adobe wasn't even a company. I remember when they created it, and we were all like, Why do we need this other format for these things?
All right, wrap it up.
No, I'm telling you, do it in a PDF. Hey, shut up. Shush. I have 10 minutes here. PDF, good sell sheet. These are great pitches, by the way.
And by a good sell sheet.
Yeah, great job, everybody.
Everyone definitely well
Yeah.
prepared.
No, a lot of really well thought out concepts and related well.
Yes. Well, thank you guys very much. I was excited to see everyone's pitches, and actually, I think I play tested a good third of them. So it's great seeing everybody participating. Thank you so much to the publishers for participating in this. It was a pleasure having you on here. It was a really great learning experience, and I hope everybody else had a great time as well. So have a good evening.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
moderating and Debbie for putting this all together. Thank you so much, guys. This is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. And the next session is at 11:15 for anyone who's at the Nonepub convention. Then there's one more session on this stream channel at 11:15.
Goodness.
I'll be in bed.
Party Saturday night. Yeah.
2 minutes
Not
from
safe
now.
for work ones.
Yeah, and everyone did great staying on time. Like we actually ended ahead of schedule. We were like back to back to back.
Yeah, those were great pitches. Really good.
Everyone
Really well
did
done, everybody.
Oh, I do want to mention use of technology. This is the first time I've actually seen pitches on. I knew that people were doing it, but using Tabletop Simulator really looked
really
good.
So good. It's so useful.
Be careful. One little thing. Be careful when you're using it. Don't move things too fast. Like the one gentleman was moving things a little too fast, like because you can't really see what the component is doing versus his hands were doing.
Oh, and for anybody who's watching,
It was
if
good.
you don't have Tabletop Simulator, currently on Steam, it's on sale 50% off.
Yeah.
So
Get in
now
and
would be
learn
the
it.
time to buy it.
I should just buy it just to have it because everyone's
Yeah,
using
so
it.
it's usually
For the
20. It's
weekend.
$10 right now. It's $10, and then you can upload all your stuff and create and fight with it when you start. But you get over that. It's a learning curve, and you get there, and it's useful.
Yeah.
Just learn the hotkeys. You will be so thankful once you learn all the hotkeys.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you guys so much. And
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.